They are shredding our Constitution. They're shredding the laws and replacing our laws that would stop us having free speech, a justice system, right to assemble, freedom of religion. We're losing all these things. That's what it means they're shredding the Constitution of the United States of America. Our current political institutions and think tanks are not responding quickly enough to meet the immediate challenge, for they are not keeping time by the same clock of those who wish to destroy our free republic. The phrase, "one nation under God," was introduced into the Pledge of Allegiance in 1954 by a joint resolution of the Congress. They did this because of the fear of the spread of communism and to keep our free markets open. Now, 70 years later, the battle for the soul of our nation is raging. We are facing a godless, communist insurrection within, with those who attack our Constitution mirrors the same systemic attack on America by the worst of her enemies, who are shredding our laws of governance and denying us our God-given rights, who do not hold the Constitution as their beacon, nor respect those who protect it. Change the Pledge of Allegiance then. And now, it's time for us to change the Pledge of Allegiance. They are shredding our Constitution. If they're shredding our Constitution, we'll lose all our rights. So, what is this change that we need? I knew that at this time, we must add protecting or defending the Constitution in our Pledge of Allegiance. This would be the final change in order to defend our free republic. Defending the Constitution must be in our pledge, and this is the reason why. While we may never be able to repay the debt we owe to our military, we must ensure they did not serve in vain. That is why we, the people, the recipients of their valor, are duty-bound to consecrate their lives with our eternal pledge to protect the Constitution, the foundation upon which our free republic stands. Only then can we continue to enjoy their hard-won freedoms and our guaranteed freedoms. George Washington said, "The Constitution is the guideline I will never abandon, and neither must we." Establishing the final revision of the Pledge of Allegiance, guaranteeing our triumph over tyranny, preserving liberty's blessings for every generation to come. The intent of what I'm doing is not just to change something now, but it is to change something immediately. But it's to leave something in perpetuity for every generation to come, so we can prevent communists ever coming to power in this country again, or any other tyranny overtaking us. Robert F. Kennedy said, "Personalities come and go, but principles endure, ideas endure, ready to inspire generations yet to be born." The Pledge of Allegiance is the final revision securing liberty's blessings in every generation to come. We're pledging our allegiance to the Constitution's rule of law. The Constitution's rule of law is a declaration on tyranny. So when we say we pledge allegiance, when the kids say they pledge allegiance from that point on, they're saying, we pledge allegiance to make sure no one comes to this country and takes away our rights and shreds our Constitution. And what else are they saying when they did that Pledge of Allegiance? And we're pledging our allegiance to defend the Constitution, because the veterans, they gave their lives so we could have these laws. So what happens now every day when the kids are saying the Pledge of Allegiance? They're finally finding out why the vets gave their lives to this Constitution. Because they defended the laws of those who would come and shred our Constitution. And that's why we were in World War II. That's why we fought in this nation, to make sure that we move towards a greater union, that no one would take this Constitution. What is the Constitution? Our founding fathers left us something, a cure for tyranny. That's exactly what they did. They were great physicians, and they knew the cure for tyranny was in the Constitution and its rule of law. That is who we are. That is all Western ways against those people in the world whose rule of law is tyranny. The original sinners against God. The original people that turned against God and his people because they wanted to rule things. And where does that come from? It comes from inside. Inside your life, when you bully someone or you think you can control someone. And that's absolute power. And that's in our life where it comes from. There's no devil making you do it. You're making a choice. Either you follow God's laws and you can use the best in your life, or you don't, and you go into a lower condition and you use all these conditions of anger instead of advancing yourself to imprison other people. And that's the war we're in. We're in a war, a world war right now, between people that use tyranny, a false God. There is no such God you praise through murder, treachery, oppression. That's a false God created in their own image. That is not our God. The God we worship has given us America. The reason for our being is to triumph over the tyranny so we can live free, live happy, and be free from the constraints of tyranny that would make us slaves to the state. And that's what the founding fathers do. And they knew one thing better than anything else. They knew once man was freed from the constraints of tyranny, they would emerge as people of common sense. And that's why they left the doctrines to us. Because they knew we were people of common sense. They knew if we were losing our rights. So our representatives were responsible for protecting us, those rights. And when they don't protect us, then the seal of liberty is broken. And here we are today. We're broken. The question I kept asking, how is it after 3 years, America is totally woke, totally broke, and the founding fathers, the house they built is almost burnt to the ground? How did this possibly happen? 6 million people came, crossed our borders. Who came with them? Cartels, drug dealers. All this time, since the day that President Biden was in office, not one person said this was an invasion of the United States of America. You didn't hear it. Not until 2 months ago, someone said, it looks like an invasion. 6 million people came. We gave them free food, free school, free housing, and we put them in woke schools where they were taught to hate America. The children were in woke schools where they determined what they thought was best to them by the approval of teachers who embraced communism as their rule of law. And how would I know that? Because when Mao Zedong came to power, he took those children away from their parents. And he made them the weapons against their parents that gave blossom to communism. They were told, you don't have to listen to your parents. You know, they became property of the state. And these children right now are property of our state. And that's why you can't control them. They've been converted to communism already. In these 3 years, what the biggest mistake that was made was, there was an invasion of America. After World War II, the greatest invasion that took place is in America, on American soil, where 6 million people came across. Now 10 million came across. And why? What was the reason that Biden opened those borders? So I want to give you an answer now that no one gave us. And I'm furious. Look what's happened to our country. We had Keystone Cops leading us. This is what I wrote before the 20 election, 2 months before the election results came in. It's called Making Sense Out of Chaos. It was Biden's plan all along to fundamentally change America, following in the footsteps of Obama, his mentor. Biden was calling people of color and the press to come to America to reclaim the wealth of America's whites-only racist, capitalist, criminal enterprise, to reclaim the wealth they got through ill-gotten means. Their goal, using the prototype of the Communist China government rule of law, to achieve this one world fair and equal global collective. They are working to destroy Israel from within, and they're doing it in the United States by cutting the lifeline of liberty around the world. So let me get more clear. This is what I wrote then. The mayors of the city, remember I said this in 2019 as a prediction of what would come. The mayors of the cities that are in chaos. At that time, you knew Antifa were running around and burning down the cities, and with the support of their governments, are doing what any communist banana republic does to overthrow a democratic republic. Yet people still do not believe that this could truly be happening, especially in America. Why? It's simple. Our leaders and conservative talk show hosts like Fox News refuse to say without reservation, America has been thrown into a fully blown insurrection launched by a newly formed National American Communist Racist Party, formerly known as the Democrats. This new party has become the envy of every dictator that is sent out to rule the world. The battle lines have been drawn. We must look at the entire picture to see the real enemy we face, to ensure that we're fighting on the right battlefield where the soul of our country will be waged. We must not stand by and let Minister Farrakhan, Obama, and Sharpton, the new leaders of America's fascist, Christian, Jew-hating Democratic Party, who planted the seeds of hate that gave birth to Black Lives Matter, Antifa, in order to gain victory for radical Islam and worldwide tyranny. These are the new fascists whose plan is clear: to establish a new America, one that will reject the Constitution and abolish the sovereignty of our nation. They are condemning America as a white stronghold that threatens the lives of African Americans and therefore justifies the establishment of new sovereignties within our nation, within our cities, with no respect to our rule of law. When Biden took office in January 2021, America was thrown into a full-blown communist open borders insurrection designed to destroy America from within. We no longer had one nation under God. Communists, formerly known as Democrats, were running our government from that point forward. This is what I wrote on January 6th, the day that they saw where an insurrection had occurred. There was no insurrection. People were tired of losing their freedoms. People were tired of the attacks on President Trump that had no founding. And they had a right to be tired of it. They had a right of grievances. Unfortunately, it got a little out of hand, but they were right in what they did. They went about it the wrong way. And this is what I wrote on that day. I'm not going to let all those Democrats and Republicans who have now turned America into a communist state and throw President Trump and the American people under the bus. I'm going to continue to support President Trump no matter what. He made America great again and stood by Israel and the Jewish people against anti-Semitism. Last night they certified the votes and America is now a communist state. No matter how bleak it may look for those who stood together with President Trump, do not stand down. The reason God put us here on this earth is to fight off this godless insurgency. This is the purpose of our nation was founded on. God's plan to triumph over tyranny and those who would promote it. That statement, have faith, resistance to God is obedience, resistance to tyranny is obedience to God, was made by Thomas Jefferson. President Trump, I'm with you, no matter what. Now, so from that point on, we're under communist rule. And all the great ones, every one of them, had no idea. They watched this place get raped. And why were there, what was the intent? How come this happened? President Biden told us exactly what he was going to do in his inauguration. This is what he said. In America, racism is systemic. He said that. In other words, there's no cure for this. So what was he saying? What did he mean by he was going to build back better? What it really means. He was going to shut America down, burn it to the ground, and rebuild it by replacing competition and free enterprise with confiscation and redistribution of wealth, because Biden believed that America's prosperity was built on oppression and slavery. There was no Bill of Rights, he believed, only for whites. And he said, now is the time to get back all the money from this white capitalist enterprise who's been suppressing people of color around the world. So he opened up our borders. And what did he do? You've seen what he has done. They're coming from everywhere into our country. He opened the borders illegally. He should have been tried for treason, along with Obama, because these are the statements they made. Obama said, America's original sin is slavery. Well, if he says that, then how do you get out of that? But the real truth is, America's original sin is not slavery. Slavery is the sin of all people in the world. Every tribe came across, took their women, enslaved them, raped them. It happened in Africa. It happened everywhere. It happened in the Muslim world. It happened in Christianity. When we went to war, people would go to war, they would take the enemy, take their women, many times rape them, didn't matter to them. That was war. So what did the founding fathers do that made a change, the greatest change in the history of the world, changed the directory of where this country was going? Because if we kept that up in the world, we'd end up in darkness. There would be nothing. When they wrote these constitutions, it became a mirror of their own inequities. The inequities of all of us, including Farrakhan and his relatives, Obama and his relatives. Jewish people and their relatives at some point are turned on God, the six priests. Muslims, they totally turned on God. They enslaved their own people in the name of God. And they're still doing slave trade. So what did these documents do? They brought the whole world together here and said, we're going to put asunder all these sins. Well, they wrote these documents, the Bill of Rights, and they said, we're endowed beyond with our Creator. They gave us the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. That was a mirror of their own inequities that they'd have to live up. That man should be free. That man has a right to speak up. That man should not be engulfed by the tyranny of the state and deny us our freedoms, or all tyranny. And so we move towards making that greater union. What's very interesting is when Lincoln said, we're here at this time to move towards a greater union, and that is exactly what Martin Luther King said. So here we are. We have one group that says we're moving towards a greater union, overcoming all these slights, women's rights. We ended slavery. We started moving towards a greater union where all people would stand against tyranny and be in the same foxhole regardless of race. But not according to Farrakhan, not according to Sharpton, not according to Obama, not according to Biden. For them, there was no redemption here. We're still a white capitalist enterprise denying people of their color and their justice. And for them, they want to burn this down and change it so all people of color have equal justice. Now, who is going to say who has the justice? They're called the elitists. That's what the Chinese government is. That's what Schwab is. All these people are elitists, and they're going to determine who gets what of all the wealth that we all make. And that's where it gets corrupt. Because since you can't say anything, you have no input, they determine what's best for the state. You get your jobs from them. So if you open up your mind and you say anything that's free, you're a threat to them. And that's what happens there. So while people are redistributing their wealth, actually they're becoming slaves to the state. The last thing I want to say, the place in the world where evil can gain its greatest power of influence to establish an eternal foothold to rule over mankind is in the realm of politics, especially where our mutually free elected representatives of our governments is the gateway that provides the entrance for those politicians that could deceive the people they claim to serve. This has occurred through our history, both by crooks in both parties. But this is the first time in America that a majority in this country has used the modus operandi of communism to line their pockets and bankrupt the country and the people they swore to serve. And that's happening right now in front of your eyes. About the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance, as I talked before, is so crucial that we revise this pledge. What is the Pledge of Allegiance? Seeking God's righteousness over tyranny is our Pledge of Allegiance. Think about that. What are we pledging? We're pledging our allegiance to triumph over tyranny. That's why I said seeking God's righteousness, because that's God's rule of law. To triumph over tyranny is our Pledge of Allegiance. So when we're pledging allegiance to destroy tyranny. We're pledging allegiance to God's rule of law. One thing that we have to know is what the hell is going on in this country, where people are now running in our streets, have come across our borders and taken everything away from us, and we have a revolution going on because Farrakhan and Obama and those crooks believe these only for white rights. So kill them, get rid of them. They're killing us. You're in a revolution. And you keep trying to figure out, I wonder why they're angry. Maybe they didn't have good parents. I was around in 1960. People didn't have parents, but they weren't going around killing you because you were white. There's a revolution going on, and you're not seeing it. And our leaders didn't see it until it's too late. So, what can we do to change this whole thing? What in the world can we do? We can't keep waiting for Congress to close the borders till Trump comes in. By that time, we'll have 10 million people here who are the enemy of our Constitution. They're the army that's forming within us. But they don't say that because they do not want to say the word communism. Well, let me tell you what they're missing. They say FBI, CIA, free press has been weaponized. But they don't tell you what weaponized it. What weaponized it was communism. Communism denied all your rights. Communism took all your money and redistributed. And we've been funding our own demise. For 3 years, we're funding our own demise for them to come kill us. And we're sitting here watching it happen, and no one said, we're giving money to these people, our hard-earned money, to turn this into a communist state and deny our freedoms. That's insane. And that has to stop right now. The moment has come. Never again is now means that moment has come. It's come in America, Israel, around the world. That's exactly what they're doing. Woke and communism are one and the same. So what can we do? The answer is only people of faith can change it now. Only we, the people, can change it now. Because our founding fathers trusted us that we would be free from these documents, from the constraints of tyranny. We would know it. So here it is. Christians and Jews are always saying, we're waiting for the Messiah. And we're doing this. And we're waiting for that. But actually, the Constitution is God's laws. That's what's in it. It's from Mosaic law. Those are God's laws that we live by, that stand against tyranny. And that's exactly what both religions are trying to do. And they finally have to get together, Jews and Christians, and fight to defend this Constitution, or they'll lose all their rights of religion. And they'll also lose everything we have. So what do the Christians and Jews have to do? They have to do what Martin Luther King did a long time ago. We don't need to fire a shot. You see all these people marching around our country. Where are we marching against them? Millions, they're marching. And they don't do anything. You don't see Biden calling the police. What are the Jews going to do? We came to America to be free. We can't wear a yarmulke. We can't do this. It's the same. We might as well be in Nazi Germany. We're being attacked. We have to cover up who we are. That's insane. We can't do that in this country. So what we can do? The Jews and the Christians unite under the rule of law, God's rule of law, which is in the Constitution, and we march down into Capitol, we march down into D.C., all of us, thousands, millions, and sit down and demand this government. We're not going to fund our own demise. We're not going to help you create a communist world on our money. We're not going to be complicit. And this is what you're going to do, and going to do it now, because we're not moving from here. You're going to shut those borders up immediately. We're not giving you 1 more cent for any of our programs that would build a communist state. We're finished. Because we believe in God, and you're trying to deny us our God-given rights, and also you're having a nation that's taking all our rule of law and making tyranny our rule of law. So then we're out of rhythm with God. We can't do anything. Once we're in rhythm with God, that's when we win. That's when Moses crossed and something opened up. That's when God's with us. It doesn't matter. George Washington started, he didn't have anything. Everything was against him. Did he say, oh man, I don't think I can do this, it ain't going to work out? He knew one truth. I have no freedom. If I don't, I'm the walking dead. I can't have property. And he said to England, screw you. Screw your idea where you have the church and state, where you collect money in Jesus' name. And anyone that disagrees with you, we're going to persecute. Our first freedom was freedom from religious tyranny. That was the first freedom. And church and state, separation of church and state, of course it's not in our Constitution. The Constitution was a reconfiguration of church and state, where we had the Constitution to stand against the tyranny of church and state. That idea that people keep saying, we don't have separation of church and state here, is a complete myth. They have no idea what they're talking about. We are separated from one religion running this country like they did in Britain. That's all it meant. But we have our civil rights to vote. You say, we have no rights. The church has no right to talk about politics, so we give them an exemption. What a bunch of junk. That is the government holding you down. You have a right to speak in your church whatever you want. The pastors that stood up to do this revolution went into the bars and talked to patriots. They're the ones called the Black Road Regiment that got this Constitution going and the Revolutionary War going. Who the hell is the government to tell us we can't talk in our church when there's tyranny against God in the government? So to wrap it up, at the end, the Jews and the Christians, we got to get together. That's the only way we can close this down. We got to stop hating each other, this Messiah, that Messiah. We're here under the Constitution of the United States is our rule of law, and that rule of law is God's rule of all our laws, stands against tyranny. I'm moving to start to do that. For 30 years, I went everywhere and put this button on people because I knew that this was tyranny would happen to us. And this tyranny is going to happen to everyone unless we stand up. Who wears this button around the world? Thousands of people. The President of the United States, Trump. People of foreign countries. People, Holocaust survivors of Brooklyn, of Latvia, Ted Cruz, black people, people who are atheists, they wear this button. And why? Because there is only one place to our path to victory. Establishing the indisputable connection between Jewish law, Mosaic, and American constitutional rule of law, its stance against tyranny, born from a biblical point of departure. This connection defines America's core values and sustains the lifeblood of liberty's decrees that guarantees our triumph over tyranny. America and Israel's shared destiny. America and Israel are an army of one. All of us, Jews, Christians, all of us, we're biblical constitutional warriors. And now we gotta go down to Washington, and we should be marching in the streets. If they want to march in the streets for Hamas, we'll show up with 50,000 people in the streets. We can't let them do that. You can't come into our neighbors and do that. And Jewish people, protect yourself. Go with 2 people. That's enough. We had enough of them taking over our nation, invading our nation. Now they're walking in our nation and spitting in our face. These people want to deny our rights. Those are the people that caused a Holocaust to the Jewish people. And we have kids here saying it's okay. Why? Because they became communists. Because they think America is an evil empire and is ruled by white supremacists like Trump, who defended us. So now we got to change everything now. And we got to do it quick. And I don't see any Moses. We've been looking for Moses in all the wrong places. We need a Moses to lead us. And right now we don't. So I'll step up temporarily until we can find someone and keep moving, because we must unite the Jewish and Christian people to get together and defend our rights. We should be marching in the streets. Millions of us. Get rid of them. Make sure they know when they come in the streets, they try to stop our traffic, they try to attack us, we're right there in their face. And what can you tell them? You tell them this. 500,000 Jewish vets fought in World War II to defend the freedoms you have now. How dare you come into our country? How dare you threaten us when we defended the Constitution? Get up close and personal. Don't take it no more. And Jewish young men, get strong. Don't be afraid to stand up. We are warriors. We're from the Maccabees. We're from David. We are warriors. We are biblical constitutional warriors. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. what you're doing now is you've forgotten who you are. And we can get rid of these people. 2 or 3 months they're gone. And then it stops the borders. They're not coming in no more. We can't wait till 2024. And that's how we support President Trump. That's how we support him. By doing this. By standing up and uniting as one, as Jews and Christians, standing by our rule of law, the Constitution. And that's why I said in the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the Constitution upon which our free republic stands, one nation, freed of tyranny, for liberty and justice for all. What's the tyranny? The godless ones that would come and deny us our freedoms. People whose religious beliefs believe in God through murder and treachery. That is not our God. And if they don't respect our rule of law, it says in the Constitution, we don't have to respect them. We have to protect our sovereignty. Now, I couldn't be that clear as I wanted to be, but I'm going to start talking about this across America and spread this pledge. We need to be saying this pledge at every meeting. And I want you to support me. And let me out there. Invite me to your meetings. Let's talk about the stand against tyranny. That is the Constitution. And the meaning of the Constitution is, the Constitution is a declaration of war on tyranny. The rest is go study. All the amendments are a declaration of war on tyranny, and that's why we're free, so they can't come and shred our freedoms. When the Great One said, shred our freedoms, what he didn't say was how we could stop it and what it meant to shred our freedoms. And that's why we need this pledge now. And I hope Mark Levin embraces this pledge, because now we're going to pledge our allegiance, the people, to defend the Constitution because of the valor of our vets. I thank you very much and have a great day.